will have the roll call followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And at this time, I will do the roll call. Councilman Carroll.
Here.
Councilman Awet Yasu. Councilwoman Johnson.
Tiny here.
Okay. Councilman Hassan. Councilman Hopkins.
Here.
Okay, and I see that Councilman or Vice Mayor Yasu is tuning in now. I'll let him connect. Okay, Councilman Yasu. Present? Are you present?
I'm present.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So at this time, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we will now go through administrative business and presentations. We will have the approval of the minutes from the 12/8/2020 meeting. I'll entertain a
Madam
motion.
Mayor.
Yes.
Before we do that, if I wanted to suggest a change to the agenda, would now be the appropriate time?
We can do it. Yes, we can do it after the approval of the minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I move that we approve the minutes.
I second.
Okay, it's been properly moved that we approve the minutes for the council meeting for 12/8. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Okay,
Aye.
motion has passed. Okay, the next thing is for the agenda. Are there any agenda changes?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I would like to remove an item from the consent agenda, the appointment of the members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, so that we could discuss them and approve them individually.
Okay. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved that we change remove, let me go back to the item, G1 from the consent agenda, and that would then become, let's see what
The last agenda item, I guess.
Yes, it will be the last one, the last agenda item. It's been properly moved and seconded that we move G1 from the consent and move it to the last agenda item. Is there any discussion on the agenda change?
I just was curious as to why it needed to be taken out of consent, if there's a concern or some other reason to take it out.
Yeah.
There is a concern, but I think we can discuss that when we come to the item.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, all in favor of the agenda item say aye.
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 All opposed say nay.
Aye.
Motion's carried, and so we will proceed with the presentation. We will have.
I just have I'm sorry, just point of order. I just would like to recommend that or encourage you, the Madam Mayor, to ask if anybody abstains as well. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem. And you're right, but I saw all of you say yes, so I didn't have to do it for that one. But I will be mindful of that in the future. Thank you, Vice Mayor Yasu. I appreciate that. With that being said, we will move into the presentation. We have Starnes Senior Living Housing Development. Is there a representative on the phone, Mr. Gomez? I mean, on the Zoom call.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. Again, this is Robin Gomez, the Clarkston City Manager. We do have with us this evening Miss Dorothy Bell. And Dorothy, I think you joined the meeting. I will turn it over to her. Her and another member of her group will give a presentation on the Starnes Senior Living Development Project on Clarkston Industrial Boulevard. So Miss Bell, please take it away.
Okay, so I am working with Carrie Taylor-Spann, who is our Vice President of Development for Housing Development Corporation. I am the Development Manager at HDC, but Carrie Taylor-Spann is going to lead us, and I'm going to provide any additional information regarding the project for us. So Carrie, if you could go ahead and start the presentation.
Hello, good evening, Madam Mayor, and good evening, Council and attendees. We are excited to present to you the Starnes Senior Project, and we'll briefly go over a few of the highlights. We are about 88% complete on this new construction development located at 3543 Clarkston Industrial Boulevard. The development is designed for seniors age 62 and over. We have about 128 units, which include efficiency units as well as 1-bedroom units. And the units rent will range between $818 to $1,108 for the efficiencies. And the 1-bedroom units will be about $465. And those are in a limited quantity. We have a wide income band for these apartments ranging from 30% of the area's median income up to 80% of the area's median income. The rent for the other 1-bedrooms range between $880 to $1,191. Utilities are included in these rental amounts, and the community consists of on-site fitness center, business center. We will have on-site laundry facilities. We will also have an on-site gazebo available for the residents' use. We are now accepting applications for interest, in which case, when we are completed, we will begin processing, prior to being completed, we'll begin processing the applications for the residents that have joined the list. We provided you with a flyer that has the contact information should you be interested or someone interested in applying for any of these units. We've set up a temporary office, which is temporarily located at 1400 Montreal Road, where you can meet with the property manager by appointment only. You can reach the property management team at 678-510-2160, or you can shoot an email to the property management team expressing your interest at starnes@thehdc.org. Again, we're slated to complete construction about March 5th. We're about 88% complete. If you have a chance, please ride by. It's a really great development. It includes state-of-the-art amenities as well as granite countertops and a lot of modernized elements in these units.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Taylor, for providing that information. I wanted to make sure we're having all these wonderful developments, and I knew you guys were close to completion, and I wanted to at least allow you the opportunity to let the community know where you were in terms of the development, as well as the opportunity for them to be a part of your wonderful units. And so at this time, are there any questions for from the council or any comments? And we welcome you.
Okay, I have a question. Are any provisions being made for Clarkston's residents, or meaning, will they have like first pick, or will there be special provisions made for them?
Yes, the tenant selection plan prioritized DeKalb County residents in particular, which of course does include the residents in the city of Clarkston. And what we're hoping is that by getting the word out early and letting the local Clarkston community know about these availabilities, that we will be able to attract a considerable amount of interest from the local community in the city of Clarkston.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Council, are there any other comments or questions?
Yes, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for this project. It looks nice and it's really coming to fruition. I'm very uneducated about senior centers, and if you could educate me and so many immigrants, new Americans that actually we're not very familiar with this, can you tell me specifically what are the special things that actually makes it a senior center, or something that you could tell me that other apartment complex don't provide, that something that you guys provide, so that I can have understanding about your services and possibly some people with mostly immigrant first generation, and we don't know a lot about senior centers. So you could just help me, educate me. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. What distinguishes this community and other senior communities are the age restrictions. And again, this community was designed for residents 62 and over. And what that includes are elements that assist in aging in place. So you won't have children, community with children as well as middle-aged adults. It is designed for residents that are 62 and over specifically, and you're surrounded by your peers. We also have resident services that are geared specifically towards our seniors. A lot of them are healthy eating and healthy living and other areas that are relevant to seniors. We will have a robust resident services program. Sometimes it includes some physical activities. We have a fitness center where there will be programs geared towards seniors and mobility and ensuring that they can healthily age in place. We also have elements within the units that allow for the units to be all of the units are not accessible units, but they have accessible elements, if that makes sense. So we are very conscious of seniors and any mobility challenges that they may have. We also have visually impaired units to assist seniors in that regard as well. And Dorothy Bell, would you remind me, have I left out anything specific to the seniors?
Yeah, one of the things that I always talk about or get excited about is the fact that these units are adaptable to handicap standards, which means that a resident may come in to the building or become a resident, and then later on they are in a wheelchair. So we can adapt these units to make it wheelchair accessible. We also like the fact that the units meet the ADA standards. One of the things that we adhere to is the DCA seniors rules and requirements, and that's to make sure that all the amenities are accessible as well as the unit. And we also have, Ms. Taylor mentioned that all of the amenities that we do have and the services that we have, but I think the programming, the building, and some of the added features, and the seniors are very excited about these types of units. And I'm happy that we are able to provide a senior property or a senior facility in Clarkston. I'm a resident of Stone Mountain, which is right next door. And I have witnessed a number of my family members who have became disabled or would have loved a unit such as this one. But yeah, the amenities, the parking spaces, we have over 84 parking spaces there. We have handicap parking spaces. We have a very knowledgeable and experienced property management team that have worked on a number of our units, our senior units. So it's going to be a great project building, and the residents are all going to be very satisfied with this project.
Thank you, Dorothy. Another element that we take into consideration is the design. We study closely the impact of coloring and shading and the type of flooring that would be very receptive to seniors. And we take all of those elements into account as we're designing these units, from the artwork that's selected, from the type of flooring that's selected, even the spacing. Every area of this community is accessible. So there's an accessible route to and from the outdoor gazebo. There's an accessible route throughout the building to the fitness center and the business center. And we provide all of this so that, again, as the residents age, that they can comfortably age in place.
Now, do you have protocols in place to deal with COVID, especially given the ages that our seniors are the ones who get it, and it impacts them the most? So what's your protocol? You have protocol standards in place for that?
We are following the CDC guidelines as well as the HUD guidelines as they relate to multifamily communities. So we will always adhere to that instruction and that direction. So you can rest assured that we are following the recommended guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Council members, do you have any other comments or questions?
Yes, I have.
Yes, Councilman Hassan.
Yeah, thank you. I see the minimum income requirements, but you said there's a maximum income. So do you have any idea what that will be before someone calls the management?
Yes, that would be 80%. Yes, that would be 80% of the area median income. And as I mentioned before, these change annually, and the property management company would be able to advise exactly where we are with the income requirements. However, we did make this almost a mixed income community, and that indicates that we can accept residents at 30% of the area median income up to 80% of the area median income.
So, I mean, we're in Clarkston, so what if the income, average income, reduced, that means the rent goes down as well?
For these units, these are rent restricted units, and a resident will not pay more than 30% of their income for the project-based units that we do have. And that is usually assessed by property management and the leasing team, whether or not your contribution to the rent would change. But typically these are subsidized units where a portion of the rent is subsidized and the resident is required to pay a small portion of the rent. So and it may or may not change. The rents don't change, but the residents' contributions may change according to their financial situation.
So when you're saying rent don't change, that means there's no yearly change, increase, rental increase?
No, I'm speaking in terms of if a resident's particular financial situation changes. So annually, HUD does allow rental increases, and there are a few project-based units here. And again, it would always be, the resident's income will always be assessed against what is required for their contribution to the rent.
Talking about the senior residences across the street.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question as well.
Yes, Ms. Hopkins, Councilwoman Hopkins.
This has kind of come full circle for me because I think the very first Clarkston City Council meeting I attended was when folks were coming in asking for variances on this project. And I know two of the variances that were requested was to go higher than is allowed by code to have another floor, and then also to reduce parking. And I know that it's kind of off the track and you have less parking than is typically required. And I know that someone who was representing your company said at the time that it might be possible even for you guys to get a bus or something to take people to the grocery, something like that, because when you talk about accommodations for the elderly, one of the first concerns is driving, because there's so many different ailments of seniors that involve driving, whether it's vision or reaction time or various cognitive abilities. But so often they lose the ability to drive. And if they're not right near shops where they can go, they're kind of stuck. So I'm wondering if you've done anything or if you're planning on anything. I have not forgotten that comment that someone said, we can get a bus. And so,
Yes.
a bus.
Do we have a bus, right? Part of the programming that's geared towards the seniors includes some transportation options. Mm-hmm. And I want to clarify, it's not transportation as a regular, almost MARTA line, but part of the resident service programming may be weekly trips to the grocery store. And again, they've been adjusted for COVID. So not sure exactly what the specifics of the program are, but we did not lose sight of that. And we do like to offer transportation options for some of the residents. And we've even had maybe fresh grocery trucks or fresh food trucks come on site. That may be part of some of the programming. And that's what, again, sets this community apart from a multifamily community, is that the programming takes into account some of those limitations. And we will address those. And we do provide limited transportation options as part of the program.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Bell and Ms. Taylor, for the presentation. And again, we welcome you to our city, and we're looking forward to allowing the residents the opportunity to move into your new complex that you have. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, Mayor Burt, and thank you to the entire City Council for allowing us to do this and provide some much needed quality housing for the seniors in the city of Clarkston. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And so at this time, we will move into reports. We will have the reports from Planning and Zoning. Ms. Cowie.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
Can you?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. The Planning and Zoning report. The comprehensive plan update is underway with the first public meeting that will happen tonight. So if you have any questions about the process or what will be included with the update, please stay tuned and ask your questions, stay involved. The zoning rewrite selection team has presented the consultant recommendation at the work session on last week for the zoning ordinance rewrite. We will wait for you, Madam Mayor and Council, to confirm that consultant team if the council is in agreement. There is a proposed conditional use permit request in 51 Montreal Road for Coin Laundromat. That is if we can get our planning and zoning board members to be confirmed tonight, so we can have our meeting on January the 19th at 7 p.m. That's the end of the planning and zoning report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cowie. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to the city manager's report. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, Robin Gomez, the Clarkston City Manager. I do want to thank the Mayor, Council, all of you for your continued support, not just obviously what we do every day, but the support of our staff. It's very much appreciated. They appreciate all that you've done, all the approvals for the items that have come forward, and we're excited about 2021. We're hoping that clearly we get to a better situation, and particularly with the virus, but we're looking forward to another great year, and hopefully we will have a city council senior staff retreat that is scheduled for February the 12th. More information will be forthcoming, but that will be on Friday, February the 12th, 1 month from today. In regards to COVID-19, we continue to remain close to the public, but we are available via phone, email, texting. We do have a Dropbox that is available at Clarkston City Hall for folks to drop off documents, payments, etc. Also, I mean, my number's been published all this time, my cell phone number. Leave messages. If I don't answer, I will call back. So we continue with our city operations, taking into account all the precautions to again help ensure to slow down the spread of the virus. And of course, our police and our public works employees are working to continue to work their shifts as we have, but again, taking all the precautionary measures to ensure their safety as well as the public. At this time, our city facilities will remain closed through the end of this month. We will see what the data shows, but I believe, as many are aware, the data is not headed in the direction that we would like. Hence why we continue to take the measures that we have. Additionally, we will continue to remind folks to wear a mask whenever you go out in public, and certainly go in any structure, any public setting. We'll be issuing those reminders to all of our businesses. We will be putting out more information. We added more banners, more signage out throughout the city, just to remind folks to continue to distance, avoid gatherings, wear a mask when you do go outside. I'm sure the mayor will focus when it's her report regarding the next wave of mask distribution, and we're hoping to add also some hand sanitizer distribution with the next wave of mask distribution that could occur as early as this coming Monday. So we encourage everybody again to continue to follow those measures, and if there's anything else that we can do, we will certainly do that. But our main priority is the safety of certainly our staff, but also the public and anybody that they come in contact with. Moving on to, hopefully many are aware that we did restart. The council approved a few meetings ago to reconvene our weekly residential and small commercial curbside recycling services, and those began on January the 4th. And yesterday was the second collection. Hopefully, if some of you have seen the truck going around, and although it did rain yesterday when they were performing the collection, we do encourage folks to recycle. We will issue additional information on reminding folks on the recycling items, certainly all types of paper, plastics 1 and 2, aluminum, steel, cans, and cardboard. I've noticed that cardboard is very, very popular, and certainly our current situation does limit going out to stores, and so a lot of packages that are being delivered and a lot of boxes. So fortunately, a lot of people are recycling those, and that is much appreciated.
But I think they're adults who just didn't grow. Not necessarily.
Oh yeah, I know what
Live
you're saying.
mic?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm
That-
not
that
sure.
commercial
Everybody,
freaks
unless
me
you're
out, too.
reporting, can you mute your phone?
See who's speaking, but anyway. So we again encourage folks to continue to recycle, and we'll continue to give updates. We are going to issue notices of where folks can take their glass to be recycled, in addition to adding, particularly at Milam Park and a few other places, some blue recycle bins that, as folks are out walking, it seems a lot of the trash that we do pick up are items that could be recycled, particularly in the last couple of months at Milam and a few other, as we looked in our trash throughout the city that we pick up. in the public trash cans that are located throughout the city. So we are going to place some recycle bins to encourage folks to recycle. So that will continue. An update quickly on our streetscape construction. I think hopefully many have observed, some probably closer than others, that our decorative lighting began illuminating on December the 22nd. We finally had Georgia Power make all the connections, so those lights have been on since then, and it truly transformed our city center, East Ponce and Market. I think it looks fabulous every evening that I walk or drive by there, and I make my route down Market to North Indian Creek to East Ponce, and I think my family thinks I'm lost or something as I drive around, but I really do enjoy seeing all the lights. Smaller details are being finished, such as the new MARTA bus shelters, the stormwater retention area out next to the Balaguero shop on North Indian Creek at Market Street, and the lighting at North Indian Creek and East Ponce, the signalized intersection. So all of that will be happening, hopefully concluding over the next month to 6 weeks. And the last item that will go in will be the landscaping that our landscape contractor will be installing again over the next couple of months. We'll have more details on that as finalized, but we're getting closer and closer to the completion of that project, and then we will jump to the next project that's later on tonight's agenda. Also, I wanted to mention, perhaps some of the council will restate, but we are having related to the COVID testing, there is more testing that will be occurring this Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Tahoe Village on East Ponce. And also this Friday at Tahoe Village, there will be mammogram screenings taking place. I'm sure the mayor will give us more details on that event. But certainly we are also working with Refugee Village to establish an expansion of what has been the Digital Divide, which is a group of several organizations, including Catholic Charities, Compassionate Atlanta, where we the city has provided some of the infrastructure, and now we're going to provide temporarily the Women's Club to help students with their schoolwork, to help with how to continue to utilize the remote at-home learning applications that students are using, and also provide some limited tutoring for students. And we're going to be moving that at least partially a day or two at the Women's Center, excuse me. So that will hopefully begin over the next few weeks. But anything else that we can do, certainly we're open to doing that. Moving on to, just wanted to go over, we have the budget to actual, the financial revenues and expenditures through December 31st. I want to add that these are very preliminary. We still have, although the fiscal or the calendar has ended and our fiscal year, which is our calendar year, has ended, there is still a lot of work and adjustments and of bills that we still have to pay, that we pay every month, and certainly revenues that have not come in. So the expenditures and revenues that you see on the screen are not final by any means, but we are obviously looking over the next month to 4 or 5 weeks to conclude this. But as of right now, we are at where our expenditures are just over 5.6 million. Our revenues are 5.252 million. Again, we have just our recurring expenditures, roughly in the neighborhood of about $100,000, but we'll finalize that. And then revenues, we have anywhere, a little bit of the unknown, but anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000 still in revenue to be collected. The largest one being our electric franchise fee that, as I've stated many times, we received that in February for the prior year, for the prior calendar fiscal year.
That's why we're not.
So last year we received over $500,000. We budgeted 225,000, but we're somewhere in that neighborhood, and we will again be making those adjustments. I'm not going to go into great detail, over all of these line items by department. Most of our expenditures did come in below what the budget was for the year, as I've been stating throughout this year. And so really no significant, really things to comment on. I'm just going to skip over to our revenues. Well, in our revenue side, which is a little bit more at this point, or from my perspective, a little bit more of importance, taking into account that we do need to obviously conclude the year with a balanced budget, and that would be even that we have additional revenue over expenditures. But just skipping up to the revenues, I just wanted to comment that given the economic conditions, given everything that happened this year, particularly with the virus, we did actually receive almost the same amount of revenues in the prior year for, on this slide here, our really the first first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10
Come on, Elliot. Help. Come on.
where we received just over $3 million.
Yeah, dude, I see
We
you.
were to total all of those for the current year. Last year it was just under $3 million. So we fared quite well in 2020 in terms of what are listed as the public utility, real property tax, personal property tax, motor vehicle tax, et cetera. As I said, the first 9 line items. So we're pleased with that. There were other revenues that came in below. As you can see about in the middle of the page, franchise taxes, electric, we have not received obviously the majority of what we would receive. As you can see, last year we received over 520,000. While we don't expect to receive that quantity this year, we're hoping to get certainly several 100,000. And there were other revenues some revenues where we did receive more than budgeted, as I've stated already before, such as the insurance premium tax, our alcoholic beverage excise tax, and even like the local, even though it's not a very large revenue, the local option mixed drink tax that we more than doubled the budgeted amount. And also you can see just some of the smaller revenues and our building permits, given all the building activity that's been happening. As we just heard, we received over $260,000, which is near 71,000 more than the prior year. Of course, we don't expect that to continue every year, but it does help make up for some of the revenue loss that on the next sheet. We did not receive any revenue for pool admissions and very minimal from the Women's Club and Pavilion. Granted, those 3 revenues equate to $56,000, but we only received about $6,600. And then the last one, our municipal court fines and forfeitures, we received as of now just over $330,000. Down from $549,000 last year, but again, that was expected that we would receive that much less. I also wanted to mention, I skipped over our coronavirus fund, where we did spend all of the revenue that we did receive, and here are the kind of the main categories that we identified when we received it, and how we accounted for all of that revenue. And again, in between salaries and legal fees, IT, just overall supplies and equipment and capital equipment that included items to make our city, touch-free, such as the sinks and soaps and other items and equipment, so that we have less contact overall, and certainly less for the public to have to touch when they're eventually in our facilities. The other agencies are the amounts that we provided for the Wi-Fi connectivity, for after-school programs, for the early learning, the scholarships at preschools, and also the COVID testing to core and Ethne Health. And our largest single expenditure for the rent, $892,539 approximately. And again, we provided, we made over 700 payments. To be precise, we made 753 payments to 410 different residents for apartments and rentals. Not all of them were in apartments, some were renting, a few were renting houses. So that's where the majority of our coronavirus relief fund went to. And lastly, I just wanted to mention, again, an indicator of our economic conditions that they, despite higher unemployment rates, despite everything else that's going on, there'll be a new federal administration. Our SPLOST revenue is still surprisingly for the fifth month in a row now, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 7 months in a row, continues to be higher than really what we had expected. This past month, our collection was $159,236.99, which was of the 32 total months that we've, 31 months, I'm sorry, 32 months that we've received revenue. This was the fourth highest. So again, positive indicator that the economy is faring well, but again, our SPLOST revenue, as it stands now with 1 month left, we are below where we were last year, but certainly it could have been significantly worse. We did have two, or really three fairly low months, March, April, and then we started to see an increase in May. So again, we're in fairly good shape, and not sure what 2021 holds, but so far all good. And the last item that I have, we do encourage, I mentioned recycling and the steps that we have been taking to ensure our staff and the public safety. We will be sending out reminders, but we do encourage folks to make sure that they are, when a lot of housing projects, a lot of cleaning, as we've all been spending more time at home, that I do encourage folks to please put out the trash, but at least please try to make sure that it's in the safest form as possible. Waste management and also and our staff made comments that it would be certainly much more helpful if for example, if bags were closed, tied, and certainly some heavier items were kind of separated from others. But I mean, our staff and waste management staff are familiar with how and how to manage all of that, but it is a little bit helpful if the public also helps us with that, and that just helps. It also helps keep the city cleaner, as there is less that tends to fall out of a bag or breaks, or when the truck pulls away, it doesn't fly away because there was a lot of loose. So together we can all help make this, the city continue to stay cleaner. So Madam Mayor and Council, that concludes my report.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Are there any comments from the council or questions? Hearing none, we'll move to the city attorney's report. Mr. Quinn.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I do not have anything to report this month. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will now proceed with comments from our council, reports from our council. And we'll start with Councilman Carroll.
No remarks.
Elliot, it's okay.
And if you're not a council member, would you please mute your phone?
What?
So Councilman Carroll, did you have anything that you wanted to report?
I don't, other than I would recommend maybe Robin could mute Tracy Bishop if he can, because I think that could be where some of the noise is coming from.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I don't have anything to report. I think Tracy Bishop may be the one who wasn't muted. If he's
Okay.
not, he's muted now.
Okay,
So that
thank
maybe
you.
someone for Robin to mute.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Hassan?
I have nothing to
Did you-
report.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Johnson?
I have nothing to report.
Okay, and Councilwoman Hopkins?
I would just like to express my solidarity with the police right now, which is not something that I typically do. But after the scenes that we saw coming from DC last week and what people are preparing for on January 20th, I think it's really important to recognize that we have seen some amazing heroism lately, people standing up and doing
Mr. Villa, pursuant to HRES.
To protect public safety. And I think one of the most impactful things that I've read on this whole ordeal going on in DC was from a resident of Clarkston who came here as a refugee and commented that you cannot imagine what it's like to come from a war-torn country and see your whole country destroyed and your government destroyed, and then come here and see the sort of things that we saw in Washington, D.C. Their immediate fear is, where can we go that's safe? And so I just want to let our residents know that I hear that, to let our police know that I respect and appreciate the job that you're doing. And I think it's vitally important, and Clarkston police have been known to be very sensitive and to do a great job. That's all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hopkins. Vice Mayor Yastu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, first, I just want to, it's a late, but since this is the only opportunity we had to say Happy New Year and Merry Christmas to everybody who celebrated. And I also, my family, celebrated second Christmas, as we always do, the Ethiopian Christmas, just about a few days ago. And I also want to congratulate our community for the turnout that we had on the runoff election. And I really am very proud that our community came out to vote. And this is pretty historic because a lot of our communities barely vote, especially on runoff elections. And this was very historic. And I want to congratulate our entire community members and the whole country. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor Yastu. And for the mayor's report, I wanted to let you know that the Clarkston COVID Task Force, we are going to do a day of service, and we're going to do our next mass distribution on MLK Day. And so we're going to try to at least distribute about 10,000 masks that day. And so we're going to set that up on Saturday, where we do our packets that we normally do. And then on Monday, we will distribute those masks to the apartments. We've seen an uptick, not only in our community, but throughout the state. And so we were trying to make sure that we do our part to lower the amount of exposure as well as transmission in our community. So that is our day on of service, not a day off. And additionally, I'm working with Soccer in the Streets, and we are going to do a program with the students on MLK Day about Martin Luther King. So we wanted to make sure we took that opportunity to educate our youth about who Martin Luther King was on that day, so that they would have an appreciation for peaceful movement in terms of civil rights. Additionally, on Friday, which happens to be January 15th, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, which is the sorority I'm a member of, is planning to have a mammogram unit along with COVID testing at Tahoe Village. And so I'm very excited because that's also our Founders Day. So we get to celebrate Founders Day in my city for the oldest African-American sorority, and that we are able to do community service, which is what we are founded on, providing community service to the residents by providing women free access to mammograms, 3D mammograms. So I'm very excited that we are able to do that in my own community to support that. So I encourage, if you need to get any COVID testing, to definitely come out to Tahoe Village for that information to find out what your status is. And so with that, I have also been participating on the weekly calls in terms of COVID with elected officials that GMA is hosting, so that we can get the up-to-date information and status of where our communities are as it relates to COVID. And working with the mayors of the community, where we had our DMA, our DeKalb Municipal Association meeting, participated with that, as well as Councilwoman Hopkins and Johnson were also a part of that call that we had during December. So I wanted to make sure that we are actively participating in terms of DeKalb Municipal Association and what is happening within our county. And that concludes my report. Next, we will have public comments. Any member of the public may address the council during the time allotted for public comments. Each attendee will be allowed 3 minutes for comments at the discretion of the presiding officer. The public comment period will be limited to 40 minutes, and it is not a time for dialogue. If your public comments contains a series of questions, please submit those to the city clerk in writing. This will facilitate follow-up by the council or staff. The city council desires to allow an opportunity for public comment. However, the business of the city must proceed in an orderly, timely manner. Mr. Gomez, did you have anyone signed up for public comments?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. There is no old business.
Sorry,
we
I'm
have
sorry.
our,
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I submitted an email and I have the receipt on this phone. I have a statement to make. My name's Tracy Bishop. I'm a
Mr.
citizen.
Bishop, where did you send and to whom did you send your email?
Sir, I sent it to your email address. Is it R. Gomez? The one that you hit when you are on the website. R. Gomez at cityofclarkston.com.
When did you send the email, sir?
Oh, that would have been somewhere around 5 o'clock. I'm not really looking to go through my phone to search it out.
I don't have any emails, but Madam Mayor, just to advise.
okay. Mr. Bishop, go ahead and make your comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Council. Happy New Year to y'all. I know, Madam Mayor, you know what I'm going to refer to. This is about agenda item H9. On face, it looks very innocent, and I understand the sentiment behind it to prevent any kind of discrimination in regards to law enforcement. But I think it's a resolution that seeks to create a special legal status for select groups based on race, sex, religion, and other characteristics. And in the light of what this actually is, I find that to be troubling because it could be subjective. So I think it's an unnecessary and superfluous resolution because it is already illegal. There is a law against anyone filing false police reports. So it's ironic that you guys are bringing this item up, in fact, because a little over 5 years ago, the former city manager, Keith Barker, filed a false police report against Chris Busing, a citizen of this city, and he actually had that citizen jailed. Now, the city council covered up for this since October 15th, 2015. We have referred to it in many, many city council meetings since this occurred. You know this, Mayor Burks, because these events took place 2 weeks before you and the former vice mayor were first elected to council. And we discussed it thoroughly the morning I went in and voted for y'all. So now 4 of y'all sitting up there right now participated in what I consider to be a grave miscarriage of justice. The council before that, the council before that, each council for the last 5 years. The city manager never had to answer for what are criminal actions by statute in the Georgia Code. He retired honorably. He left with a taxpayer-funded golden parachute, and I'd like to know how much of our budget we're paying to him for that, because I asked that question at a budget meeting, his last budget meeting, where he was presenting a similar document in December of, was it 2018? 2017, I guess, to be technical. Whenever it was, and I had requested the information as to how much the taxpayers of Clarkston were having to pay for him to leave honorably. And I never did receive an answer to that question, but the former vice mayor did have me thrown out of that meeting, and it's referred to in a police report for some upcoming action we're gonna have. So I just wanna make that clear. That's exactly when I was thrown out of a meeting, amongst, a few other times when you're trying to silence me, the council that is, or the city manager, whomever it may be, who wanted to silence me about this particular issue. Now, this man was rewarded for filing a false police report. He was given years to work for this city. So there's already a law against filing police reports that are untrue. The council ignored that law when it mattered. And now that you're coming up with a new resolution just for show, to virtue signal to people, and I understand people may think that this is a legitimate concern, and I'm not belittling the reasoning behind it. But the fact is that council can't possibly pass a resolution like this and not be called out publicly. I mean, it's intellectually dishonest, and it's hypocrisy. It's just, and it's complicity in the former city manager's crimes, because it continues to cover them up. So, if we need social justice in Clarkston, I think that means we need justice for all. If we need equity in Clarkston, the best equity is equal protection under the law. And all these principles are clearly stated in the US Constitution. And that's what everybody that's supposedly coming here as a refugee or an immigrant or is born here, we all look to the US Constitution for our protections. And I mean, son of a gun, it's ridiculous to just layer on the law so you can have somebody write an article about it and say, oh, Clarkston's so progressive. Because really, Clarkston's the most regressive, totalitarian place I've ever lived in my life. And so just real quick, I think it's H6 coming up where everybody wants a 10% COVID raise. Maybe the police, maybe your public works people that come out and I have to talk to face, but you guys hiding behind Zoom calls, I don't see any justification for the city manager, the city clerk, or anyone on council to receive a raise for doing your job, unless you want to open up City Hall, and then we can give it to you. I'll be happy to pay y'all all 10%. if you open up City Hall and face the citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you,
for your
Madam Mayor.
comments. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Having no other comments, we will proceed with the consent agenda. We move the item out and we have the following items. G2, confirm attorney. G3, confirm auditor. G4, confirm judge. G5, confirm solicitor. G6, confirm ethics hearing officer. And G7, appoint Historic Preservation Committee member. There are no other changes. Yes.
Oh, I just was going to say I have a motion.
Okay,
Go ahead,
go ahead.
finish. I'm sorry.
You can go ahead.
Well, I have a motion to move that we approve and confirm G1, which is confirm the attorney, G3, confirm auditor, G4, confirm judge, G5, confirm solicitor, G6, confirm ethics hearing officer, and G7, appoint historic preservation committee member.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. It's been properly moved and second that we approve items G2, G3, G4, G5, G6, G7, all via consent agenda. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion passed. Thank you. We will now proceed to new business, which is H1 Vice Mayor selection. And with that, we have two nominations from the floor. I will go through protocol procedure and make sure in terms of opening that up. We have a nomination for Vice Mayor Yasu, and we have a nomination for Councilwoman Deborah Johnson. And so again, at this time, are there any other nominations on the floor for the position of Vice Mayor? Are there any other nominations on the floor for the position of Vice Mayor? Are there any other nominations for the position of Vice Mayor on the floor? Hearing none, we will vote on said names. At this time, I will allow both members to provide a statement as to why they would love to be a vice mayor. And we'll start with Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I want to start by thanking Laura Hopkins for nominating me. I took the nomination and I would be honored to be the vice mayor. I'm seeing that we're all council members and we're just basically vowing to step up to the plate in the absence of our mayor for any apparent reason. I think I would be a great choice. And it's a learning experience as well. So thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson. And now Vice Mayor Yasu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if I'm giving a speech, but I just feel that's another way of serving the community. I have had the privilege doing it in the last couple of years, and I feel I could definitely continue serving. We have had a very challenging year, and I feel like we all came and we did serve the community at very trying time. And I definitely consider I have learned a lot. And I feel, being a vice mayor, it has been a great pleasure learning how to run meetings. And I've had the honor to run the meetings for the last almost about 8 months, from March almost till November. And I definitely feel I have done okay. And I definitely would love to continue serving. And I certainly feel the more experience we all build, I think in the coming years, there will be opportunities for other council members as well. And that's pretty much what I want to say. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you both for your willingness to serve in this capacity. And I will try my best to not have to let you serve that much. But again, thank you again for your willingness to serve. So at this time, we will vote on said names. And I will start with Councilwoman Deborah Johnson. All those in favor of Councilwoman Deborah Johnson, say aye. Or I want to make sure I get the ayes right.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. And then for Councilman Ayasu, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. And those who abstain.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, can I vote for myself?
Yeah, you.
I'm sorry, I didn't vote, so.
Okay.
Okay, well, I for Deborah Johnson.
Okay. Okay, so that means, Councilman Carroll, did you vote?
Yeah, I voted for Councilman Bayasu. It may be better to call the votes by name just because I think
Okay,
sometimes it's
so
hard to hear
that
time.
would, yeah, I got, now that I have that, so there are 2 for Councilwoman Johnson and 3 for Councilman Iyasu. So with that, Councilman Iyasu will now be Vice Mayor again. Okay, thank you both for your willingness again to serve, and then thank you and congratulations to Councilman Iyasu for staying as Vice Mayor.
Yes, congrats.
All right, so we will move
Thank
on
you.
to H2, which is the Alcohol Review Committee license. And so we have the Alcohol Review Committee has received and reviewed an ownership change, and we'll have Mr. Gomez to talk about this particular item. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, as I mentioned last week, this is an item to approve a change in ownership for the 76 Food Mart located at 4556 East Ponce de Leon. They made an application for the alcoholic beverage license for beer, wine, malt beverages for retail package sales. They submitted, they met all the requirements, all that they needed to complete, including a background check, distance checks, et cetera, that meets all of our city code provisions, and we're recommending the approval of the applicant.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the council at this time? Hearing none, then we'll go ahead and move on said item. I will entertain a motion at this time.
I motion to approve the Alcohol Review Committee application for alcohol beverage package store for beer, wine, malt liquor. The location to be considered for this alcohol beverage license is Mighty Money Inc., DBA 76 Food Mart located at 4556 East Ponce de Leon Avenue.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second that we approve the alcohol license for DBA, for Mighty Money Incorporated, DBA 76 Food Mart located at 4556 East Ponce de Leon Avenue. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Yes.
I just was gonna ask, is the applicant with us?
Mr. Gomez, is the applicant with us?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Right. Okay, the applicant isn't with us. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Say nay. All those who want to abstain?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion has passed. Thank you. And so we will proceed to the next item, which is H3. H3 is the award trailhead and Roland Street pedestrian improvement bid to the lowest bidder, SOL Construction. And before we begin this, Mr. Gomez is going to talk about it, but I wanted to make sure I said something about this, and that going forward, we will make sure in terms of projects, particularly those projects that construction projects that are along streets, that we make sure we have a process in place where we notify the residents along that construction. So that was something that bothered me to the point that I went today and sent out information to the residents along that street, because we want to make sure if we're going to do something that may impact our residents, particularly those directly in front of it, that we communicate with them, because there are a couple of things that can happen from that. They need to know from us versus hearing it construction that day. And also they have ideas because they live there every day. And those are things that we may not take into consideration. So going forward, we're going to make sure in terms of a process that is part of the process, particularly when there's construction that's going to impact directly those residents in front of that. So I just wanted to make sure I took that moment to say that in terms of a time for us to do an improvement. So Mr. Gomez, would you please go from there?
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, the document that's on the screen is actually from the open house that was held over 2 years ago regarding this project. But again, this is the Trailhead Roland Street Road Diet Splost construction project. It incorporates the area from the Pocket Park just to the east of the U-Haul station along the path toward, and then it jumps over from Lovejoy on Roland Street from Lovejoy down to North Indian Creek, and then on Roland Street from North Indian Creek down to Market Street. Here are some of the visuals regarding the project, just to put a little bit of the kind of visual component. This is the area from on the screen from North Indian Creek, Roland Street, from North Indian Creek on the left of the screen, moving to the east or northeast along Roland Street, past the Send Relief, North American Mission Board, Southern Baptist Convention property on the north side of Roland. As you can see, the project entails a little bit of the meandering of the road, which also serves as the path. So it's typically utilized quite a bit, and the utilization has increased by cyclists and pedestrians. It includes a raised crosswalk. It will include additional landscaping. It includes Hill Street being, the parking being removed from Hill Street with landscaping in the middle. And again, there will be a length sidewalk on the north side of, or the Church Street side of Roland Street all the way down to Market. In addition, this is the section on the image now from really where the Methodist Church, United Methodist Church, is down to Market here in the middle. And then the section on Roland from Market to Norman has been completed other than landscaping. But there will be a raised area on Norman Road at Roland Street again for the continuation of the path. From this design back in December of 18, there have been a few changes. There will not be a sidewalk on the south or the Roger Street side of Roland from Market down to the entrance to the Methodist parking lot that we currently lease from the Methodist Church. But so that's to give you a little bit of a visual of essentially a road diet. Speed limit will continue to be 15 miles an hour on Roland Street once it's completed. Here are a few images and renditions of what the project will look like, including the median down Hill Street. It has some existing existing photographs, or photographs from a couple of years ago rather, to what the street and sidewalk will look like. The image on the right being in front of the area where the Women's Club is located on Roland Street. It also includes, and this is the trailhead area located, as I mentioned, near the U-Haul, near Mell Avenue down just south of Church Street. And it's a little bit related to the history of the rail that used to go along the path from Atlanta to Stone Mountain. I mean, you can see landscaping, benches, and just a much more improved little park along the path. The project we're looking, again, as the item before you, and this is a little bit of what the trailhead, the proposed view kind of still an existing view on the left and what it will look like going forward once the project is completed. We are recommending that we go with the low bid presented by Soul Construction, and their bid at 1 million. We received 7 bids. You can see the bid listed by Soul, $1,081,011.10. As Mr. Kaiser discussed on Thursday, our budget was a little bit less, but we are still below what really the estimate was, what we thought the bids would come in. It is estimated 1 year for completion of the project. Again, the majority of the funding is from our SPLOST contributions, revenue, and with the smaller amount from our Georgia Department of Transportation Local Maintenance Improvement Grant Program. I believe we're looking to have the construction begin, and Mr. Kaiser can correct me, I believe by April or March. We are still the Send Relief North American Mission Board construction project hopefully will be completed next month or early March. And then once they complete that project, then this will begin. We are thankful to Send Relief NAMBY. They provided some of the sidewalk construction and installation in front of their property that was originally going to be part of this project. So that does help us a little bit. And we are reusing some of the granite curbing that has been removed from the project. So be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gomez. And one thing that came up is a concern about the fact that Hill Street will not have any parking. So along the path from a public place where people will be able to park, what will be the option for people?
That's what we are working with the United Methodist Church. We will be leasing, we currently have been leasing their parking lot since 2011. I met with them a few weeks ago, and we're looking to renew the lease, but it'll have some additional components that will include resurfacing the lot, providing an area to place the trash container that's under the 8-yard container, an enclosure, and also that it would allow for public parking for when the church is not using it there. And so it'll be redone, the lot, restriped, but the church currently does not use it. And the Methodist Church originally had a school that was utilizing their facility. That school has since moved away. So they're looking for, looking at the possibility of allowing other users of their facility, but currently they do not have one. But that'll be part of the overflow parking. Really there aren't very many cars that park here that are using the path, but I have seen them park here at City Hall Annex. They've parked at City Hall, obviously when we're not having meetings or even during the business day, but they've been using the Methodist Church parking lot. So Hill Street was never really designed to have parking on it, but that's what it's been used for probably for decades. But this project was an opportunity and was touted as a green project, as Mr. Kaiser explained on last Thursday. And therefore, to make it a little bit greener was really the decision that was made when this project was approved a few years ago.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to the council for any comments or questions at this time.
Yes,
Councilman, Vice Mayor
City Manager
Yasu?
Gomez, or sorry.
Okay, I'll recognize Vice Mayor Yasu, then followed by Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, my question is, I would like to know what is the most challenging and expensive aspect of the project?
I'm going to really the overall construction and the road work. We have to mill the road and then install as the road meanders. That's the most expensive part. No, Larry, if you're on the call, you might be able to provide some more specifics, but that's typically the since this is essentially a type of a streetscape improvement project, that's the most expensive component of the project.
Yes, the reconstruction of Roland Road from North Indian Creek to Market, with the relocation of the granite curb and installing all of the green bioswales and water quality devices and trees. That is most probably the most expensive part, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Carroll, your question? Or
Yes,
concern?
so
Comment?
City Manager Gomez, I think at the last meeting, several of the council members expressed interest in having the sidewalks being put on Rogers and also on Roland at the same time we're doing this construction. So it's to kind of minimize costs and also minimize disturbance to the residents, and also, provide for more pedestrian safety, which is obviously one of the major purposes of this construction. So I was seeing if that's something that we can, I don't know if that's something we can do tonight, or if that's something we would need to bid out separately and have a separate agenda item for at a later meeting, or how the process for that would go.
Well, we've looked to add that, and I mean, that can certainly be part of this project. We didn't originally, that was not part of this. So we're looking at what that may look like and what the cost would be, but it is, I mean, a little bit expensive. And you're referring to Roland Street from North Indian Creek out to Lovejoy, I believe. And then Roger Street, we would only be able to add sidewalks from the United Methodist parking lot down to North Indian Creek, which is clearly that would be a great benefit to have. So it's just additional costs that we can fit into the project. That's and likely something that then detracts from a future project that's on our SPLOST list.
All right, so if the council is interested in doing that, is the process to bid that out and have it as a separate agenda item in the future?
No, that could be part of this project.
Okay, so is that something that we could add by amendment tonight, or we would have to wait until we get the cost and things like that?
I mean, well, I don't know, Larry, do you have anything to add as to what the process, if we
Yes.
use this before?
Yes. So we have done this a number of times, Councilman Carroll, where we have increased the scope of a project and used the same unit prices in the original contract. So all you would do is it's just be a change order at some point during the duration of the project. And the change order would be the same unit price as the sidewalks that are currently in the existing project.
Okay. And Mr. Kaiser, how much I know you had some buffer room. So in terms of this project, would that still fit within the buffer that you had?
In terms, Madam Mayor, you mean in terms of the budget?
Yes.
Actually, I'm just trying to think out loud here. We had about $1.255 million for the entire project, both design and construction. So I think we are right about at the budget number that we had back in 2017 for the project, without the changes.
Okay.
I have a concern as well, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilwoman Hopkins.
Okay, I know that the original contract with United Methodist Church was, I believe, for $600 a year for to use their parking. The intention was to do strictly overflow from like city council meetings or events we might have in City Hall, which are at times, Tuesday nights are not usually a big night for the church, but that just kind of sat there, and then no longer money involved. And I think we were just kind of covering their dumpster, and they had concerns about that. And now I have concerns about that because I had no idea that we did not actually own that parking lot. And of course, they're not operating right now because of COVID, but hopefully there will be a time soon when we can all go back out and see each other face to face and go to church and participate in activities like that. And that parking lot is very, very small, and it makes me I mean, we can easily fill it with just one city council meeting, and it makes me concerned that we have public building with absolutely no parking within 2 blocks of it that is city parking. So it very much concerns me to remove that parking on Hill Street, especially since I feel like that parking that is going to be for Send Relief appears like it will be closed off. I mean, we've used that as overflow parking for everything from City Hall, from the Clarkston Community Center. We don't know if we will have access to that again. The Methodist Church parking lot is much smaller. So at the same time, looking at those drawings, it seems like there's a huge investment going into the streetscape between the Send Relief and Send Relief, and almost no investment going on Rogers. And at the same time, you're taking out the only public parking we have within 2 blocks of City Hall. So I would have to say, I can't in good conscience approve or think it's a good idea to take out the parking and plant trees in the middle of the street when we don't have city parking for City Hall, and then do nothing for the residents on Rogers, take all of the traffic out of the Send Relief buildings and essentially diverting it to a residential street, and then not doing sidewalks for the residential streets, not putting those curves, not having the bump outs with trees. It just seems that we're doing a lot of subsidizing for Send Relief, and to the disadvantage of the residents of Clarkston.
Councilwoman, I'm a bit confused. If you're referring to removing the parking on Hill Street, first of all, I think it only allow right now legally, and if we were to stripe it, it would only allow for about a dozen spaces. First of all, you cannot have parking on both sides of the street. It's too dangerous. Right. So we're talking about a dozen spaces, to my knowledge, but I've only been here 2 years, only about 2 or 3 cars from residents, unless they're having a big event or gathering, have I ever seen parked on Hill Street that did not belong to the International Bible Church. The Send Relief project has its own parking to accommodate all of its, or certainly a great majority of their attendees and users. The United Methodist parking lot, even when the school was there, and certainly in my entire first year and a couple of months, hardly was ever full. We're the ones that would fill it if we had a sizable, and really the most occupied, the busiest it would be during our court sessions. Our court sessions are a lot smaller now. So we can certainly make the changes if that's the desire of the council. I'm just a little concerned to make them now when this project has been established for a couple of years, first of all, but second, I'm not sure that that parking is an issue on Hill Street, or would be an issue.
They're debating this project that we wanted to know about.
I'm sorry. Was that John? Was that Mr. Cargill? Okay. Were there any other concerns that the council would like to bring at this time?
I have a quick question, Madam Mayor. This is for Larry or Mr. Gomez.
Yes,
How many?
Councilwoman Johnson.
Okay, I'm sorry. How many change orders have we approved for this project, and what is the cost of the change order?
We haven't approved any, Councilwoman. We haven't started the project.
Okay. If we start the project and we need a change order, what is the cost for it?
We don't, at this point, we don't have estimates, because we're talking about adding sidewalks. We're probably looking at a couple, I mean, Larry, you can add, but probably a couple $100,000 just to add sidewalks.
Yes, Roland from Northern New Creek to Lovejoy, and the sidewalk on a portion of Rogers would be most probably on the order of about $350,000.
Okay. Thank you.
I might mention also for Councilwoman Hopkins, there is actually work being done on Rogers Street. It includes the bump outs, chokers to reduce speeds, as well as milling the road and resurfacing all of Rogers Street.
as part of that,
Madam
will
Mayor,
there be addition, and I'll, Council Vice Mayor Yasu, go ahead. I'll let you go ahead.
no, I just was going to say, I think let's add the sidewalk at this point, and I think the parking, we might have to think about it in the future, but the sidewalk will be feasible to add it at this point, and it will increase the scope, but I think it's probably a good rationale, since we are possibly going to have potential diversion of traffic to that road, which is residential heavily. I think it might be a good idea to add that aspect. And I would like to know, again, as Councilmember Carroll was asking, so do we amend the motion, or what do we do to add the parking? I mean the sidewalk, excuse me.
And Mr.
Our
Gomez.
city attorney can answer that.
Yeah, Mr. Gomez, that would be something where we would simply add that to the.
We would add that, as has already been stated, we would add this going forward, as Mr. Kaiser said, as a change order.
Right.
And again, the council would approve the change order. I would not approve that just myself. That would be brought before you to show, to explain, and of course for transparency and accountability.
Right. And when, as part of that, are we going to do anything in terms of the lighting? Because that was something that was a concern, particularly on Rogers Street.
In terms of additional streetlights, or?
Yes, that one of the residents asked about that there's a certain part that's a little darker from that Hill Street to Indian Creek area.
We can add that's not a problem. We can add a street light.
Right.
Or two.
But that's something that we need to look at. And then the other thing is from a traffic study. When was the last traffic study done?
There was, Ms. Mayor, there was no traffic study done. The traffic studies that you're referring to will come about when we have our transportation plan that we're going to bring to council, very likely in March for approval. It'll be the first transportation plan ever for the city of Clarkston. So in terms of a traffic study for this project, there were no traffic studies per se for this project, either for the streetscapes or for this Roland Street project. We knew that by modifying the intersection with North Indian Creek and Roland, that we would provide some diversion to Rogers Street. That was something that we talked about 2 years ago, which is why we added the traffic calming devices on Rogers at the City Council's request 2 years ago to this project.
Okay, thank you. So we'll see in March, and so that would be prior to any type of construction on this area. If there's something that we see because of the changes, because of the increase, maybe from having the people divert from one street to another, we'll still have an opportunity if there's something based on that traffic study that we might need to modify. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that what we have, what we recommended with the traffic calming chokers on Rogers Street, that will provide everything that council will need to slow up traffic on Rogers. There's no doubt in my mind that those traffic chokers will do exactly as they're planned to do, and that is to slow up traffic pretty dramatically.
Okay. And what I'm hearing from the residents on Rogers is that they would prefer to have those parking spaces so that that's something available to the residents there. So just keep that in mind as well. That's input from the residents who live actually on Rogers Street.
And
yes, Vice Mayor Yasu.
I believe if we
I was just going to say, Is there a way? Well, I was thinking we could address it in the future, but maybe we could reconsider not taking out the entire parking on Hill Street, possibly keeping some of it. I think maybe half of it. I don't know. I think there might be a way that we could go ahead and with the project. I don't think the parking lot is a major aspect of this project, so we could certainly keep with the half capacity of what is currently right now, something to continue, but at least we can also beautify that area.
Right. And Councilwoman Hopkins, you wanted to make a comment?
Yes, I just think that the money going into this median down the middle of Hill Street that would take out all of the parking project could be used to do similar bump outs with trees as there are on Roland between Hill Street and Indian Creek, to do the exact same thing on Rogers Street between Hill Street and Indian Creek, to make those two sort of parallel, so neither one is the high-speed area. And we have obviously a significant investment putting that median in there. If we just don't, like if we just leave that out and take the funds on bump outs. And I also have a question for Mr. Kaiser. The bump outs on that he has planned on Rogers Street look kind of similar in that they kind of put a curve in the road as the one in Hill Street and Indian Creek, except they're not green. Is that the difference there? Is there like bump outs that make you have to go around them to put a curve, but they're just not landscaping those? Or what is the difference between those and the bump outs on Roland?
Yeah, so the ones, Councilwoman, the ones on Rogers, we did not have a pretty drawing for those.
Okay.
Yeah, they will have they will have shrubbery and small trees in those. Yes, ma'am.
So it's the same kind of thing. It's just
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Putting them in after the fact. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. We did have a pretty picture of them.
okay. All right. So I'll have a
Good.
pretty picture in my head then. Okay. So
Okay, good. All right.
possibly do the same on Rogers down between Hill Street and Indian Creek if we did not do the median there and kept the parking, so we would have some public parking. Because we've also
Yeah.
a lot of parking, as I said, that being one big parking lot, which I think was actually 4 lots previously, and everybody just used all of them. I have to say, I think it was a shock to the city when that fence went up, because people used that for, like I said, the community center, for events at Refuge Coffee downtown. It was essentially being used like a city parking lot for anything place a person might go. And so kind of having lost all of that was shock enough. And I really just think those spaces, if we put them in not parallel parking like we did on Market Street, but the way people actually park there, which is either straight in or, you know, at a slight angle,
It looks like.
we could at least have some sort of public parking. We don't have to panic if we have an event and well, it's not going to be a lot. It could be a dozen spaces, but a dozen spaces would be really great when we have no place for people to park, to get on the path. I know people do park on the side of the road further down on Rogers where that crossover is from the Clarkston First Baptist Church. People just park on the side of the road down there to go out and walk their dogs and get on the path. But to have some place that's public parking on this side of the street, I think would be really helpful. And I think not spending the money on that green median, but using it to put an attractive bump out similar to what we have on Roland would definitely benefit the project. And we could do the sidewalks on the other side simply by not paving the road as wide as it was. Just make the road narrower. It does not have to be that wide on a neighborhood residential street. It could be a lane.
Okay.
I have a question,
you,
Madam
Council-
Mayor. I have.
Yes, Councilman Hassan.
I think we have I mean, the agenda tonight was a bit, and we went too far for redesigning it without looking at how much it's going to cost. And later on, we say there's additional cost that we have to, all these changes. So this project's been designed, years back. It's came to conclusion now that it has to start. And if everybody for redesigning it and adding up and subtracting it, we're not going anywhere. So I don't see, all these changes have, are coming with a dollar. They will add the bid, that's 1 million or so. You will see that it will be 2 million or 1.8 million. So we got to make, we have to make some sense that to stop the project and redesign it or continue the project. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Hassan. So at this point, what I'm hearing is two things that need to be either modified or changed or added to this project. I've heard that not to have the median on Hill Street and to add sidewalks to Rogers and Roland. And those things can be, once the project is started, we can get an estimate and have a change order for that. So is that fair to say, Mr. Kaiser?
Yes, ma'am. That's from what I've heard. That's what it appears the council desires. If you don't mind,
Yes.
just a few seconds here. The reason that we had the boulevard or the trees on Hill Street was to have it be like a boulevard, that short section through there. And so we have like 40 something feet of asphalt out there, and we're going to take that up with one lane in each direction, and with a 12-foot wide grass median with some trees. So we were trying to have like a boulevard effect that complements the road diet on Roland. And so if the council would like to have on-street parking on Hill Street, I guess it's possible with the amount of asphalt we have out there. It's just we wouldn't have much beautification at all, because what you'd have is you'd have 2 through lanes and on-street parking. And so those 3 things would account for basically all of the existing asphalt that's out there now, for the most part. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Okay.
Ms. Councilman Carroll, I do have one comment and one question, if that's okay.
Sure.
So the comment is, I think that, since this is a green project, I think having the trees there, both for beauty purposes and also because, trees absorb carbon and actually do help the environment. They do provide places for birds and other benefits, right? And that versus more parking, which we all know cars, do bring some pollution and carbon. So I think we need to consider that trade-off if we are thinking about removing the boulevard. I think that the boulevard may make sense. The other thing I would say is that I understand right now the NAM parking lot is fenced off. My understanding is that's going to change once they complete the project, and the Rogers Street residents, if they wanted to park in the NAM lot, I believe they could continue to do so as long as it's not being completely occupied, like on a Sunday morning or something like that. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's my understanding. If the city manager or someone else that knows could correct me or confirm.
Well, they never confirmed that with us. So it was mentioned before, but it just hasn't been confirmed.
Okay.
But it was mentioned before that they don't plan to change the use from what it was previously.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, they did mention, the Namby Cinderleaf folks, that they would allow for some public parking in their parking lot.
Okay. So I would think the Rogers Street residents would have sufficient, at least maybe not on Sunday morning at the church hours, but the other times I would think that they could have sufficient parking there without having to take out the boulevard on Hill Street.
Okay. So are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, then I will entertain a motion on how the council would like to proceed with said project. If you want to just vote for the project as it is now, or if you want to
I would
make any other updates to it.
I would move to award the Trailhead and Roland Street pedestrian improvements project, low bid presented by Soul Construction, an amount of $1,081,011.10, with the understanding that Mr. Kaiser will bring proposed change orders to the council for both adding the sidewalks along Rogers Street between Market Street and North Indian Creek, and along Roland Street between Lovejoy, North Indian Creek, as well as a change order to potentially remove Hill Street to allow for additional parking. That those change orders could be brought to the council's consideration at a later date.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay,
I
it's been
second
properly
that.
moved. Thank you, Vice Mayor Yasu. It's been properly moved and second that we award the Trailhead and Roland Street pedestrian improvement project to the low bid presented by Soul Construction in the amount of $1,081,008.11.10, with the understanding that Mr. Kaiser would bring in change orders for sidewalks along Rogers Street from Indian Creek to Market, and Roland Street from Lovejoy to Market Street as well as a change order for Hill Street. Is there any discussion?
Just to clarify, I mean that those will just be brought for the council to consider. They were not necessarily approving one way or the other tonight, but we may get the cost, or we may look at the overall design change and make a decision later.
Okay, so we'll just stick with the motion for the approval of the Trail and Roland Street pedestrian improvement project to low bid presented by Soul Construction in the amount of $1,081,011.10.
Without Jamie's changes?
Oh no, all I was saying is that the change orders would come, they would bring the change orders for the council's consideration later, just that we're not approving the change orders tonight.
Right.
Correct.
And I have a question. Will we have to do a public hearing for the changes?
No, that will be presented just like it is today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And
if we approve it
Councilwoman
tonight,
Hopkins, pardon me?
if we approve it tonight, then would the construction company, be able to just go ahead and start on this as is? Would they be given instructions, don't start building the, median on Hill Street next week? Can you just do the east side of Roland first and let us discuss that, or are we just approving the whole thing?
The construction is not starting right away. Larry, when is the earliest the construction could begin?
As soon as Namby moves out of the parking lot, which would be sometime in most probably middle part of February.
Likely in March, council.
Yeah. So we would not, Ms. Mayor, we would not, I would specifically, if they do start in February, I would specifically tell them, do not start on Hill Street.
Okay. And that will even give you enough time to come back to us with an estimate of what the sidewalks. Okay. All right. So again, is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor to award the Trailhead and Roland Street pedestrian improvements project to the low bid presented by Soul Construction in the amount of $1,081,011.10. All in favor say aye.
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 Councilman Carroll, did you say aye?
Yes, aye.
Okay.
I'm not going to oppose my own motion, no.
And Councilwoman Hopkins, did you say aye?
No, I did not.
Okay. All opposed, say nay. All abstentions?
Abstaining.
Okay. So motion passed. We had 4 ayes and 1 abstention. We'll move to the next item. Thank you very much for that very robust conversation. And thank you for the chat comments from our community. Thank you very much. So we'll move to the next agenda item, which is, scroll up a little bit more for me to see. Okay, it is to present the mayor and city council the selection committee recommendations to perform the city's zoning ordinance rewrite services. Ms. Cowie?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we did discuss at last week's work session, the city did release the proposals for the zoning ordinance rewrite. The dates are listed in the timeline, and the proposals were submitted. The selection committee that consisted of the city manager and myself, we did interview the 4 firms that submitted their proposals, and on last week, the committee did recommend Pond & Company as the zoning ordinance rewrite consultant team. We are presenting the selection committee's recommendations for the mayor and city council to review and allow us to move forward with a contract for the consulting firm. Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cowie. And at this time, we have, and Mr. Gomez, if you could scroll down a little for me. Okay, we have Pond & Company. Is there any discussion by the council? Any more comments? None? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion at this time.
I move that we approve Pond & Company to perform the city's zoning rewrite.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved that we approve Pond & Company for our rewrite. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor of Pond & Company to do the City of Clarkston's rewrite, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passed. We will proceed to the next agenda item, which will be our public hearing for the 2021 Comprehensive Plan Update. Ms. Cowie.
Madam Mayor, the City of Clarkston's comprehensive plan, known as the Clarkston 2040, is mandated to be updated before the deadline date of October 31st, 2021. The city has signed the development of local comprehensive plan agreement that will allow the Atlanta Regional Commission, the ARC, to provide assistance to the city to update the Clarkston 2040 plan. Last week, Ms. Rachel Will, who is the project manager from the Atlanta Regional Commission, was here and gave a background, and tonight is the public hearing for the comprehensive plan process and to give the residents an opportunity to understand the process and what is associated with the update. Madam Mayor, Mr. Gomez, is Ms. Will on?
I do not see her, but no.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Cowie, can you kind of give an overview or a highlight before we start the public hearing?
You broke up, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that for me, please?
Can you give an overview or highlight about the process as far as the comprehensive plan, so people can have a better understanding?
Yes, the comprehensive plan is why do we plan? And we prepare for the future, anticipate change, and accommodate the present. We enhance our strengths, minimize our weaknesses, build community, and provide for public health, safety, and welfare. there are required sections of the comp plan that is required for the comprehensive plan update. That is the visions and goals, needs and opportunities, the community work plan, and a new addition and element that was not in our previous comp plan was the broadband services. Thank you, Mr. Gomez, for putting the presentation up. And there are other required sections as far as the land use, economic development. There's a transportation element, of course. There is housing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cowie. And right now I will open it up for the public hearing. And at this time, I will allow the residents, if they have anything for this comprehensive plan or against the comprehensive plan. We'll start with the for, and then if they just have general comments. So Mr. Gomez, did anyone sign up?
Yes, Mr. Dean Moore. Dean, please proceed.
Am I the only one commenting?
Well, I think the mayor opened it up for anybody to comment. You're the only one that registered for this item.
Oh, okay. I think it's very important that everybody get involved in this. I know that we're all basically speaking in an echo chamber here, that there's not that many people paying attention to what's going on, but that's the only way to really develop a good plan for the future. And these documents are very important. I encourage anybody that does get involved in it, read the documents thoroughly and go to the planning meetings. If we're able to have planning meetings live and in person, that'd be great. But short of that, people should sign up and go to the online meetings and make sure that the input is taken and acted upon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Oh, I'm sorry. One other thing I wanted to mention.
Yes.
One of the former residents had mentioned that the paving of Hill Street originally was a big hit in Clarkston. That was the one of the original paved streets, and all the kids went there to use their roller skates. Thank you.
Thank you for that historical perspective. Appreciate that. Okay. I guess there are no other public comments or public comments at this time. There are no other public comments. There are no other public comments. Hearing none, I will then close this portion for the public hearing. And Ms. Cowie, what else do you need us to do from this agenda item?
I wanted to make sure that we go down to the schedule. Mr. Gomez, if you could go down to the schedule where we are today, January and February, we were looking for steering committee meetings. We're still waiting for those recommendations for the steering committee so we can schedule all of the future meetings and introduce ourselves to the steering committee members. February, a public meeting and engagement opportunity. In March, another steering committee meeting. April, open additional public engagement opportunities with surveys or online events or any kind of visual meetings that we may have. May, steering committee meeting. June or July, it is anticipated that ARC will finalize the document based on the input and city staff. And then August, local staff will schedule pre-transmittal public hearings, known as the second required public hearing. And we will then transmit the final plan and the document to ARC and the Department of Community Affairs to begin the regional and state review. So we can meet our deadline by October the 31st of 2021.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cowie. So there's no action at this point for us to do other than provide you the appointments for the steering committee, correct?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. So we will have that information available for you probably by the February meeting. That way we can make sure in terms of any updates or changes to the chairs, we'll have that as an agenda item.
You, Madam Mayor. As soon as we can get that information, we can proceed.
Thank you. Okay, we will then move on to the, Were there any other questions for the council, from the council? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move to agenda item H6, which is to approve an additional 10% hazard pay, COVID-19 pay for all city employees who all for hours actually worked at a city facility or in the field during the continued pandemic. Mr. Gomez.
That is the item before the council, recommending that we continue as we have been since March, originally at the 5% hazard or COVID-19 pay, and then increase to 10% at the December meeting, retroactive back to March. We are requesting to continue this for the staff for the hours that are actually worked, either at a city facility or out in the field. We have employees that are working remotely from home, or any employee who is either out sick or takes a vacation. This additional pay is not paid when they are not physically working here at either at a facility, as I stated, or in the field.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any questions for the council at this time, or any comments?
I just want to thank our staff
Yes,
for all the hard work.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you, Councilman Carroll. Vice Mayor Yasu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I also want to say thank you so much to our staff that has been, all of them actually, and particularly those who are continuing their work, even though we are facing a pandemic. And I definitely am glad that we are continuing doing this. I do remember back in March or April of 2020 when we initiated this, Clarkston was one of the first cities that did that in the county, and I am pretty sure we are the only city that is right now at least considering doing this out of our own general budget, and that's definitely shows our commitment, our public works, our police, and all the others that are working at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council or questions?
Just wanted to join Vice Mayor Yasu in thanking the staff for all their hard work, and I appreciate that there is obviously a risk to working in person during this time period. I appreciate them being willing to do it to serve the city.
Exactly. Thank you very much for your service, your continued service. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time. Yes, Vice Mayor Yasu.
I move that we approve the 10% hazard or COVID-19 pay for all our employees that are working. And I'm sorry if I'm not reading this. I want to make sure I read it properly. Can you pull it a little down?
There you go.
All right, thank you. I move that we approve to continue to provide in 2021 the additional 10% hazard/COVID-19 pay for all city employees for all hours actually worked at the city facility or in the field until the pandemic time period slows down enough, provides for a safer environment to allow for the reopening of the city offices facilities to the public.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. It's been properly moved and second that to continue to provide in 2021 the additional 10% hazard/COVID-19 pay for all city employees for all hours actually worked at a city facility or in the field until the pandemic time period slows down enough, provides for a safer environment to allow for the reopening of city offices facilities to the public. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. All abstentions? Motion passed. Thank you, and thank you again for your continued work. And so the next agenda item is to adopt proclamation for MLK Day, and that will be me. So hopefully, as you know, we're getting ready to celebrate Martin Luther King Day on Monday. And so especially given this time, we want to make sure that we celebrate someone who means peaceful, nonviolent protesting in terms of equality for our community and making sure in terms of having that voice. And so we want to make sure that we recognize this day is the 26th Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. And so at this time, this is the proclamation. And so with that, we'll adopt that proclamation is, are you ready for, I'm ready for a motion for the proclamation. It's pretty much a proclamation, but.
I make a motion to approve the proclamation designating Martin Luther King Jr. holiday as a day of service in Clarkston.
Thank you.
And
Is there
I
a second?
I second.
Okay, we got second and third, all of it. Thank you. We appreciate that. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the proclamation, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passed. Okay, we will move to the next agenda item. Thank you all. And that is to adopt the digital inclusion resolution. And then this resolution is, as you heard from Ms. Cowie, we are adding in terms of our comprehensive plan, the broadbanding portion of it. And so this one is to have the assurance of accessibility, availability, and affordability, relevant privacy and equitable access to the World Wide Web, the internet. And so with this, we want to make sure that we consider public and private partnerships to make sure that we can find ways to make the internet affordable for our residents, both from an individual perspective as well as from a public perspective, and also continue the work that we see that our task force and many digital divide groups are doing in terms of having equity and literacy. And so that's what the proclamation is for, or the resolution is for. And is there any discussion about that? Can I have a motion? Is there any discussion? I'm sorry. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion on said item.
I motion to approve the digital, I can't see it, inclusion
resolution.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. It's been properly moved that we vote for the digital inclusion resolution. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Aye. Great. All opposed say nay. Motion passed. Thank you. And then we'll move to agenda item, which number is this?
H9.
H9, thank you. I couldn't see it. Thank you. Thank you. To adopt the resolution by the City Council, Clarkston City Council, condemning the act of falsely reporting a crime or otherwise causing a police officer to contact the person in order to discriminate against the person on the basis of the person's race, ethnicity, religious affiliation, gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And that is another one that I had. And we want to make sure in terms of the misuse of 911, as well as the misuse and weaponization of our police, that we don't do that in terms of the our brown and black communities, that are often affected by that. Is there further discussion from the council? And I know that Mr. Quinn had an update for that piece of it. Mr. Quinn?
He's showing as muted. I don't know if.
Mr. Quinn, you're muted.
Okay.
So I know
Hello,
that he
can you
made.
hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
Quinn.
That was frustrating. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, yes, I added section 4 to the resolution in response to the conversation that the council had at the work session. Obviously, we don't want to give the police any recommendations that would get in the way of them doing their job. So I tried to phrase it where hopefully they would just be sensitive. And again, I'm quite sure that what we've written there reflects how Chief Hudson's department would operate anyway. But I think it's a good thing to put our policy in writing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there further discussion from the council? Yes, Councilwoman Hopkins.
I would like to point out, and partially to address a concern of the speaker public from the public at the start of the meeting about this, who had some concerns that he wasn't at the work session, I don't believe, so he didn't catch that it is a resolution and not an ordinance because it is already against state law to make a false report. And so just as a resolution, the most that we can really do is condemn such actions and just try to make it a part of our culture that we acknowledge that this does happen, and that it is not, it's not just inappropriate, it's very, it goes beyond just making false reports. It also goes into threatening to make a report because it can be weaponized against people of color. I think a lot of folks don't know how scary that can be. And then it also builds that fear of the police when you use them as a threat. It makes people not inclined to trust them later when they need them, and they might call them for your protection if they weren't so afraid of them. So it's very dangerous in that way. And then also not just making false reports, but as we said, we've all seen the videos of people who call and report something as so-called suspicious activity, which is also called just people living their lives, having a barbecue in the park or something. But to some people, other people will always be suspicious no matter what they're doing. And that also is worthy of our condemnation as well, that we need to make sure that people realize that just because something inspires fear in you doesn't mean it's actually objectively scary. It just might mean that's your own biases and you should take a look at that. And do not call the police unless it is a serious threat of harm to yourself or to others.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Vice Mayor Yasu?
I also want to echo similar sentiments, and at the same time, I also think that we need to educate the community with existing laws, and particularly on this one, we also need to make sure we don't discourage legitimate people who see something suspicious, and we got to make sure that they call and not think, oh, I don't want to be called a racist or something. And then, but anyway, my point is we are not, what we are trying to get is we are trying to reduce any possibility that our police department being used against any group, but we're not saying don't call the police
Right.
for everything. We are actually strongly encourage you, if you see something suspicious, call the police. That's just definitely the common sense. And there are definitely laws in Georgia that you cannot make false report, and you should not make any false report. And I definitely kind of agree with the sentiment of this resolution. I just want to make sure that we do not discourage anybody from making this legitimate calls. Plus, we do not also, I just want to make sure we also educate our citizens about existing laws. Since we can't make this an ordinance, I think it will be good to also strengthen whatever we have and educate our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Yasu. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Yes, Councilwoman Hopkins.
The resolution by the Clarkston City Council condemning the act of reporting a crime or otherwise causing police officer to contact a person in order to discriminate against the person on the basis of the person's race, ethnicity, religion, religious affiliation, gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been properly moved and second that we adopt a resolution by the Clarkston City Council condemning the act of falsely reporting a crime or otherwise causing a police officer to contact a person in order to discriminate against the person on the basis of the person's race, ethnicity, religious affiliation, gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the item, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion passed. Thank you. And now we will proceed to the next agenda item. Thank you. Item number H10, to approve city manager's employment agreement modification to provide for a 3% salary increase. Mr. Quinn. You have to get off mute.
All right. Thank you. At the annually, the city renews its, the contract with the city manager, Mr. Gomez, is for an indefinite duration, but he does have a written contract pursuant to the charter, and so for Mr. Gomez to receive an annual compensation adjustment, the way we accomplish that is to put it on the agenda and amend that contract. The only thing that this would change about the contract with Mr. Gomez is to increase his base compensation by 3%.
Okay. And thank you, Mr. Gomez. Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Is there any discussion from the council? Okay. Hearing no discussion, I'm ready for someone to provide a motion on the item.
I move that we approve the change to the city manager's contract to increase his compensation by 3%.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved that, Mr. Gomez, you go back up. Thank you. To approve the city manager's employment agreement modification to provide for a 3% salary increase. Is there any discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor of the motion to approve the city manager's employment agreement modification to provide for a 3% salary increase, say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions?
I'll just abstain.
Okay, you will abstain. Okay, motion has passed. Thank you. And we will move to the next agenda item, which is, there you go. To approve a resolution on the administration of business licensing regarding special licensing for pawnbrokers. Mr. Gomez and Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a resolution to clarify, provide clear direction to the administration of our in our code of ordinances regarding business licensing, business registration, found in Chapter 11, Article 1 of the city's code of ordinances, and Chapter 11, Article 7 regarding the licensing for pawnbrokers, that any applications for pawnbrokers must have obtained a business license with the city. So this is clarifying, providing that direction that both of those need to be obtained. Additionally, the resolution clarifies that waiving the regulatory fee of the $3,500 fee for the title pawn that required a proof of title in connection with the pawn transactions, but the businesses really don't require any monitoring by our police department. So we believe this is, again, as I stated, to properly administer these two processes relating to our business licensing and any licensing related to pawnbrokers. And I think, Mr. Quinn, anything to add that I may have left out?
Not much, Mr. Gomez. I think you covered it well. I would just sort of reiterate that we have two separate existing articles of regulation, and they're not changing. This is just a resolution to sort of document and clarify how they work together and how we'll enforce it, plus giving the city manager the authority to waive that fee when a particular pawn shop does not have a likelihood of stolen merchandise, you know, for the reason he stated that they're requiring the title as part of their pawn transaction.
Okay. Is there a discussion from the council? Any questions? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion at this time. And Mr. Gomez, if you could scroll up a little bit so we could see there we go. I'll entertain a motion.
I have a
Yes,
motion.
Vice Mayor Yasu.
Thank you. I move that we approve a resolution regarding the administration of Article 1 of Chapter 11 of the City of Clarkston Code of Ordinances concerning business licensing in conjunction with Article 5 of that same chapter
Article
regarding
7.
licensing for, is it 7? I'm not good with Roman numbers. Licensing for pawnbrokers.
Okay.
A second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second that we approve a resolution regarding the administration of Article 1 of Chapter 11 of the City of Clarkston's Code of Ordinances concerning business licenses in conjunction with Article 7 of that same chapter regarding licensing for pawnbrokers. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the said motion, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passed. And so then we have one last item, and I'll go back up, and that is for the appointment / fill one vacant seat and to reconfirm 3 expiring term positions on the Planning and Zoning Board. And so that was moved to be a general item for discussion. And I guess I'll open that up for discussion. Who would like to start the discussion on this? And this is, we already have Barindra DeCarl, Amy Metford, and Felicia Weiner as our existing planning and zoning board members, and the recommendation was for Susan Hood to fill the vacant seat.
I think we are ready to go ahead and
Vice Mayor.
Yeah.
I think.
My bad.
Okay, I was gonna let Councilwoman Hopkins talks first, so she was starting to talk.
I just wanted to move this off the consent agenda so that we could vote on each member individually, because I do have some concerns about some of the appointments. So I would prefer if we could go through each one.
Okay, and Vice Mayor Yasu, what was your comment?
I think I was going to say the same thing in different words. Or I think we are ready. Just let's make a motion for each name, and we go for each candidate separately.
Okay. All right. We will do that. Okay. So we will. I will go through each one, and then you will we'll vote for each one up or down. We will start with Barindra Bakal, and so I will entertain a motion for his reappointment to the Planning and Zoning, and he currently serves as the chair of the committee, of the board. I'm sorry. Yes.
I have a motion.
Vice Mayor Yasu.
I move that we reappoint Barindra DeCarl for the Planning and Zoning seat.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's been properly moved that and seconded that we reappoint Barindra DeCarl as on the Planning and Zoning Board. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, ready for
I just want to thank.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank him and say I'm really grateful for all his services that he's been doing for the last several years. And he has been chairing the meetings, and I really want him to continue serving the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Mayor, I would have to agree with Vice Mayor Yasu. I had the pleasure of sitting in to a couple of his meetings, and he orchestrates the meetings well. He takes control where needed. So I want to thank him also for his service, because he really dedicates himself to planning and zoning.
Good. Yes, he has been very great on that position, and we really appreciate him. Okay, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of reappointing Barindra DeCarl as to the Planning and Zoning Board, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passed. We will move forward with the next name, which is Amy Metford, and she is been a member of the Planning and Zoning Board. So it is for our reconfirmation or reappointment. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we reappoint Amy Medford.
Okay, is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, so there wasn't a second for that. So then we will not proceed with that motion. Okay, do we have another motion for that one? Okay.
What do you mean another motion for that one?
Well, okay, so So that one, so there was no,
So there's no,
okay.
so I guess I would be curious to hear
Yes.
discussion from the council as to why there was not a second, or why the other council members have doubts about it. I think she's posted her
Okay.
training or emailed everyone her training, so I'd be happy to hear what the other council members think.
I was hoping not to do this, but I can. When we were running for office, things that residents told me that they would like to see from a new council is, high level of professionalism, but also to feel welcome and included in activities of the city. And there have been planning and zoning meetings where Ms. Medford actually stood at the dais, where you're already above the audience, but actually stood up and was pointing at them and scolding them for laughing at times she thought was inappropriate, or looking in a direction that she thought was inappropriate, or cheering on or applauding a speaker that said something that they appreciated, and directing in such a way as to, I mean, I was born here and people don't ever call me timid or shy, but where I have actually been shocked at the level of direction. And then my second concern there is that there was a movement last year to deregulate all zoning in the residential areas of the city, led by a council member and Miss Medford, and a consultant from a political ideological think tank, none of which had ever written land use, city planning, have ever taken a full college course in city planning, and then said if we went through the whole process that we would, have some go through 2 years of public outreach and come to the same conclusions that we have come to, because that's our beliefs. And that does not, to me, represent the level of professionalism that we need.
And let me say something. Before I made the recommendations, I actually talked to the existing members and brought up concerns and issues, and had that discussion. And I'll be honest, I had that discussion, and that we recognized, and we had that discussion, and that was something that was not going to be an issue going forward. So I want to at least say that that was concerns that may have been out there. I addressed it with the planning and zoning members so that they would understand some of the sentiments, but also to give them a chance to say that they would be willing to be participants on the council, on the planning and zoning board, and willing to work and to make the changes necessary to be, so those things would not be an issue going forward.
Madam Mayor, is Ms. Medford on the line? Can she speak? Basically, that's it. We're basically going by things we've heard in the community and observed in meetings. So you say you had a conversation with each of the applicants, but we did not know that. So that's why I asked, was she willing, did she want to say anything? Because it makes a difference now hearing that you had a conversation with each of them.
Yeah,
we respect your recommendation.
Right. And I did not make the recommendations without taking the time to communicate with each of the applicants and the planning and zoning current members, as well as the proposed new person to it. Because again, I understood some concerns that were expressed, and before I move forward with said names, I wanted to let them know and be upfront and let them know, but also give them the opportunity to let me know how, in terms of them moving forward, what their plans were to move forward.
Okay.
So I did that with each one. So I just wanted to make sure that you know that I did take the opportunity to do that and to allow them to have a chance to say yay or nay, if they would change or modify. I understood that that's something that's important to do.
Okay, my question at this point is, since the motion did not get a second, and we did not know what you're saying, would you ask the question again, or does it die?
Well, Amy, the motion died because it didn't get a second, but Mrs. Medford is on the line and she can speak now if she would like to.
I'll be happy to speak. Can I ask what it is, what questions, or is it that I'm to speak on?
Well, basically, the mayor. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Madam Mayor. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, the mayor basically
no,
shed some light on some questions that we had in reference to some. I'm sorry. Can y'all hear me? Go ahead.
So Ms. Medford, some of the council members had some concerns in terms of the engagement as far as at the planning and zoning meeting, in terms of making sure that we follow parliamentary procedures, in terms of making sure that we properly communicate with the members as well as the audience when we're having meetings, and just making sure that we are handling procedures correctly in terms of how we conduct and talk at the meetings, and making sure in terms of debates and everything else. So would you like to kind of, and we kind of had that discussion when we talked before. And so just kind of give us, what you would like to do in terms of being on planning and zoning.
If the concern is everybody's knowledge and ability to participate in Robert's Rules of Orders, which is what I really think a lot of the issue comes down in, I don't think too many people have a real understanding of how Robert's Rules of Order works, and that's what planning and zoning is supposed to go by, as it's, this is how we conduct meetings, this is how things go. I think the best place to start would probably be with a training on Robert's Rules of Orders for the entire board, because I think everybody needs a refresher. It's something that if you don't have a background in parliamentary procedure or debate, even, if it was a long time ago, it's probably rusty. So I think going forward, perhaps even calling a special planning and zoning session to train on Robert's Rules of Order. Shawana gave everybody a book a couple years ago. She bought everybody a copy of Robert's Rules of Order. So that would certainly be a good place to start. As far as my participation on that, is the concern that I'm not familiar with Robert's Rules of Order, or that I'm the one that's not participating properly using that?
I think it's more so, and I guess maybe sometimes speaking, instead of allowing the chair to deal with people who may speak out of order, that sometimes you may do that in light of allowing the chair or the presiding officer to handle those types of issues.
That's very fair. My response to that is I really relied on the chair for a long time, until one of the members of the audience told me that I needed to be bridled in the middle of a planning and zoning meeting. and called me, basically said I needed to bridle that filly. I'm not a horse and I'm not an object. And unfortunately, nothing really happened. The chair didn't step up to defend me and didn't step up to call proper order into the meeting. And I will confess that at that point, I was really hurt. And so I felt that if I'm the one, you know, if putting me out there, I can handle my own. And if that's what I have to do, then that's what I have to do. I'll be more than happy to take more of a step back if everybody can get trained in Robert's Rules of Order so that something like that doesn't happen again. Because I think we can all, I mean, everybody's been on the name calling side of this. That's what happens when you get into a public forum. But it's not appropriate when anybody does it to anyone. It's not how we're supposed to treat each other as people. And so that's...
And thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. So I think unless there are any other questions or things or comments from the council, thank you for that clarification and joining the call. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay. So with that, the original motion died. If you would like to proceed, you let me know in terms of another motion or how we want to go forward.
Like to proceed with the next two members, please. Ms. Hood and is it McFarland?
Well,
okay,
so then we
well, don't we need a motion for this one before we go to the next one? Either to approve or deny?
If the motion dies, then the motion dies, correct?
Yeah, since this is an appointment, the lack of action is a non-appointment. And so there's no need to take any further action on that nominee.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Quinn, for the clarification. Okay, so then we will move on to...
Well, I guess I would just, you know, I would still like to move to appoint Ms. Medford. I don't know if I can again to see if anyone wants to make a second after hearing from her. If not, then we would move on to the next one if no one else wants to make a motion.
That would be a new agenda item.
Mr. Quinn, is that right? Quinn. Can I make another motion or does someone else have to make the motion or how does the process work?
So I believe the proper rules of order are that the items on the agenda and it's been called for a motion and it failed. So then it would be up to the chairperson to entertain a repeat motion, but that would not be required.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll entertain a repeat motion. So.
Okay. Well, I move that we do approve Amy Medford for another term after hearing from her. I do think that, you know, I'm sure she has said some things she's regretted as the rest of us do, but I do think that, you know, she's willing to continue to work to improve and she is trained in this area. So I would make the motion again.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? Hearing none, we will move on to the next name, which is Ms. Weinhardt. I'll entertain a motion for her reappointment.
I make a motion to reappoint Ms. Weinhardt to the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that we reappoint Ms. Weinhardt to the Planning and Zoning Board. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of reappointing Ms. Weinhardt to the Planning and Zoning Board, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passed. And then the new appointment would be for the vacant position, and that is Susan Hood. I'll entertain a motion from Ms. Hood, or from Ms. Hood's position to be reappointed. I mean, to be appointed, I'm sorry. Yes.
I have a motion to appoint Susan Hood for the vacant planning and zoning seat.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been properly moved and second that we appoint Susan Hood to fill the vacant seat on planning and zoning. Is there any discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor of appointing Susan Hood to the vacant, to fill the vacant seat on the planning and zoning board, say aye.
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 All opposed? Oh, all opposed say nay. Any abstentions? So the motion passed. So that leaves for me to provide another recommendation for that seat on the planning and zoning, which will be done at the February meeting. Mrs. Cowie. Yes.
Madam Mayor, clarifying question. Since Ms. Hood was recommended to fill the vacant position, so now we still have a vacant position?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I think that was the last agenda. Yes.
I needed, I want to ask Ms. Cowie, does this stop them from having their meeting on the 19th? The vacant position?
No, there's one.
It's just one, so you guys can continue?
Yes.
Thank you.
They have enough to have quorum.
Okay.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Cowie, if we can make sure that we institute some trainings, especially even if it's 30 minutes or whatever, if we can incorporate that into some of the planning and zoning meetings, that would be great.
Actually, I wanted to touch on that too, Madam Mayor. I won't take too long.
Yes.
I know we're at the end,
yes.
But
okay, no
as
problem.
we were discussing, Ms. Medford did discuss that I provided each member with a copy of Robert's Rules that actually came out of my personal pocket. The city did not pay for that because I was passionate for them to have that. So that did come out of my pocket personally. Ms. Weinert and I actually worked together on providing not like a cheat sheet, but a way that we can understand the process during the meeting of how we should proceed with each planning and zoning meeting and the rules and the policies and procedure. So our board members are very active.
Okay.
They want to make sure that we are producing the right information to the community because they are the first ones that they see before they are presented. The information is presented to as you, Mayor, and City Council. So I just reiterate that they are excited about training. They do have the information in their possession. We will just have to go through it and make sure that all are understanding as we move forward.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you for your commitment to making a great planning and zoning board. We definitely appreciate that. And hopefully that might be something we can do in terms of getting you reimbursed for that, but that's an offline conversation. But yes, thank you again for your commitment. So Vice Mayor Yasu.
Thank you so much. Just 1 minute. I want to say that I want to thank Ms. Cowie for doing that as well. But I think we need to see if GMA provides some training, and then we need to incentivize the board to attend this classes if there are any available. And well, I don't want to say make it a requirement, but I think it would be great to make sure that every single member is committing his time. So I think it would be great to kind of incentivize a way that they could also attend these courses. But I think this is really important to make sure that GMA is providing these courses and make sure that each member actually takes the course before getting into any meeting. But but I think we can't do it right now in the middle of it. But I would really encourage us in the near future to make sure that we are actually following up with these requirements or with these incentives. Thank you.
Thank you. And to Mr. Medford's point, Mrs. Medford did send me the available courses from GMA for planning and zoning to be able to take. So we do have the courses that are available.
May I say something as well?
Yes, Ms. Hopkins. Councilwoman
also-
Hopkins, I'm sorry.
I just also wanted to thank Ms. Cooey. It's a statement to her commitment to take money out of your pocket to buy books to train people. And I do appreciate that commitment. It's obvious that you're passionate about what you do. And I just appreciate you taking that time to try and make sure all the people on your committee are trained.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. If there is no other discussion, I will entertain a motion to end the meeting, to adjourn the meeting, sorry.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passed.
You want us to stay on?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
guys.